So what we're going to do is we're going to use our existing model grid for this Khuc. Not sure how that got. It got the pronunciation Khuc for track Khuc. So we're going to have a river boundary and then ocean boundary over here, the open boundary. And then we'll assign initial condition for salinity, dye, and then we'll assign winds and atmospheric data, and then look at the results, the circulation pattern due to density difference between freshwater and saltwater. Having said that, grid will be imported, activate salinity, then already gone through that. Let's go ahead and start. We have limited time. Open up your EFDC Explorer 8 and then we're going to generate a new model. Click on generate new model, and it's a familiar form now. So we're going to use second option, CBL grid option. So if you have existing data, you don't need to go to Cartesian option. Let's go ahead and find the file that you have downloaded. Go to browse and go to your folder. Go to data, go to grid, then it has Khuc.cbl, click OK. So now we have our CBL grid. So this is just a single grid, so we're not going to go over this one. So if you have multiple subdomains, multiple subgrids, you could import them into EFDC Explorer and then manually connect those in EFDC. So this is our ready-made grid, or ready-to-use grid. So let's go ahead and click generate. So all of you should have 1699 cells. Okay, let's go ahead and click OK. So now our model grid should look something like this. Let's go ahead and save our model. Going to save on my local drive, projects, and so on. And then run one. So now we have imported our grid. Actually, for this example, we have Geo Reference Map. Let's go ahead and see how our Geo Reference Map look on the background. So to load our Geo Reference Map, we can directly drag and drop .geo file that's in your folder. Actually, we have a guidance document to show how to create a Geo Reference Map, so that you could, import a map into your project. Let's go here again. Go to data, and under data, there should be a folder called Geo Reference Map. Click on that, and then we'll choose Khuc_Google So Geo means extension we use for georeference. So this is nothing, just a text file linking a big map file with the coordinates for the bounding polygon or bounding rectangle. Let's go ahead and drag that to our model domain. So our model should look like this now. Is everyone following so far? If you don't want it to show, you can hide it over here by clicking display georeference background if you want. That's right. There are two different maps. So this is the second map. You don't have to load it, just for a reminder that we have two maps. Now let's go ahead and assign our initial conditions for this model.
If we load both of them, can we switch them or just...
It will switch. If you drag, then it will replace the existing one.
Okay.
However, you could combine, but since it's the same area, one will overlap another one. So if you have a Geo Reference Map, for example, this section, you have one map and this section another map, you could combine them by going to .geo file. Could do that. Any questions so far? Let's go ahead and create a 5-layer model. Go to domain and change number of layers to 5. Hit enter. So we have 5 layers with a fraction of 0.2. So each layer is 0.2. Go to initial conditions and bottom roughness now. Now we'll assign bathymetry. Go to assign. Browse to data file. This data. So there is a file called bathymetry.dat. Check that.
Check bathymetry then.
Bathymetry.
Okay.
The type is DAT. It depends on how it's showing on your machine. So today we're going to use interpolate data because we don't have data density available for each grid cell. So we'll need to do some interpolation. You can create different models using two different options, and then you can check the bathymetry loading the existing model and see what was the difference at each cell. Do you guys know how to do that? Maybe I can show you later. Let's go ahead and apply interpolate data, and then choose option both, so it will raise or lower our bottom elevation based on our data available. So if you know it's going to increase all the time, you can change to raise only, so the bathymetry will increase whenever there is no data available. Go ahead and click apply. Now our bathymetry is assigned. It says modify at 1699 cells. Click OK, done. So to verify, we have our bathymetry. Go to view options, and then your bathymetry should range from minus 13.76 to 6.2189. So here you can see there are really elevated areas that are not deep. So this is a model which has a lot of dry cells. Let's go ahead and assign water surface elevation, then we can see dry and wet cells into our system.
Why does it show a weird number here? In the average, no, the average bathymetry.
I think some data is hidden on the background.
Oh, it's less than 1.
Yeah. So it's the average of all of these data. Can you see what? Something is hidden past that. Let's go ahead and assign our surface elevation. Click assign. You will use a constant water surface elevation of 1 meter. Let's go ahead and click 1. We're not going to assign water depth. So water depth will be calculated based on the water surface elevation we define. Go ahead and click apply. It says I've modified 1699 cells. Click done. Save our model. Now let's go to view 2D plan. So this is the bottom elevation view that we already viewed. Now let's go to water levels. You can see your depth is varying from 0.045 to 14.7672 meters. So this is the coastal region which has the most higher depth, and there are so many regions which has a minimal 0.045 meter depth. So this means these are dry. So to check whether they are dry and dry or wet, there are 3 options you could choose in water level options. Go ahead and click wet and dry. Now here we can see there are several cells that are dry. We have included them in order to do some flood analysis. There's a flood plain. So whenever there is a huge flow, then water will dissipate to dry cells. But when there is a smaller flow, they will remain dry. Let's go ahead and drag our shoreline so we can see how our actual shoreline looks like. Go to the same folder which has data. Over here, under Geo Reference Map, there is a file called shoreline. Oh, that's a KMG. I don't want to use that. Go back to data. Should be shoreline.
P2D.
Yeah, shoreline.p2d. Just drag it into our model domain. So now you can see our wet cells are kind of following our shoreline. So this makes more sense to have drier cells. You could delete all of those dry cells and do analysis. It could still be fine, but this one, adding extra cells, would help you to find the floodplain when there is a larger inflow and outflow interaction going on in the system.
Does it affect the time, the runtime, when they are dry?
It shouldn't affect runtime. So when it's dry, it just skips and goes to the wet cells. It's just a flag checking. If it's dry, no, then it will move on. Okay, let's go ahead and assign our boundary conditions now. First, we'll have only two boundaries for this example. We'll have flow boundary over here on the west side, and wet surface elevation or tidal boundary on the east side. Go to boundary conditions, click enable edit, and then zoom into your area. So we're going to use these three cells to assign our inflows. So let's go ahead and right click on this first cell with I and J index of 3,23 and click new. So we'll name inflow boundary group. So it's going to be a flow boundary, so we'll choose 1. Go ahead and click OK. So now we have assigned one cell to our inflow, but we're going to assign 3 cells as our inflow. Since this is only 3 cells, so I'm going to use mouse function to assign the boundary. So to assign another boundary cell to the group, just right click. Yeah, right click and add to adjacent. Add one more. So now we are done assigning the inflow for this model. To view what was our label boundary condition, what was the label of our boundary condition, you can click on label boundary conditions. There is inflow. Now let's go ahead and assign our open boundary. So open boundary will be for this whole section. Zoom in. Start here, new east boundary. So this is towards east, so we're going to use 4.
You started the top, I didn't see that.
You can start anywhere. We're going to use a polyline to assign our boundary, but I use the top cell. So choose 4. That's open boundary condition towards east direction. Click OK. Now we're going to use an add to polyline feature that Paul demonstrated in his previous example. Go ahead and click add to polyline, and there should be a polyline ready for us to use. There is an open boundary line. Under data folder, there is an open boundary underscore line.p2d file. Let's go ahead and choose that. Click open, hit apply. Then we should have 34 cells on our boundary condition. Let's go ahead and click OK and verify that all of our cells are included in the east boundary group. Everyone got that so far? Let's go ahead and save our model. Now that we have assigned boundary condition location in the map, we're going to assign the flows and harmonic boundary for this example. So let's go ahead and assign the flow first. Go to boundary conditions. You can go this way. Go to edit, and then it will show two boundary conditions that are assigned so far. Go to inflow, click on edit. So to assign flow, we can directly go to flow assignment and click on edit. So this will bring the same form that we have been using for the past couple of days. Since we have only one flow, let's go ahead and click 1, hit enter. Now we're going to import the data for the flow. Let's see if we have flow data here.
Is it import data or import only?
I haven't gone to that part. I'm checking the data first. Here. So if you go to the folder 3D coastal and under data, there should be a folder called boundary condition. Both of those folders actually have that. Go to boundary condition. So it has boundary condition underscore flow and boundary condition underscore salinity. Go ahead and use import
Data.
Import data. Format. P2D format. Browse to that location. And let's go ahead and choose big underscore flow. Click open, and let's go ahead and choose the first option, de.dat, and we can view if that series is correct or not by clicking on preview/graph button. So this is our inflow condition that we're going to use in our model. So everything looks good. Let's go ahead and click OK. Now it's going to ask you enter the layer number 1 to 5. So it has given us 1 to 5 because we have specified 5 layers in our model. Since we are going to distribute it on all the layers, we're going to use -1. Go ahead and click OK. Now you'll notice the flow at each layer is divided by 5. So we have the same amount of flow flowing through each layer. You can view your total flow by clicking some layers on your left hand side and click current. Then you can view the same series in EE. Let's go ahead and rename our series as inflow.
Sorry, where was the flow data located?
Let's see. So it's under data.
Yeah.
And there is a boundary condition folder, boundary C.
Yeah, I got it.
And then BC underscore flow. Okay. Now let's go ahead and assign harmonic boundary condition for this example. Go to domain, go to boundary conditions, and on the bottom there is harmonics. Click on E. Then it should give the form something like this form. Now we'll create one series for this example. Enter the number of series as 1. So current series 1. We can give a name, east boundary, or whatever name you want to give. So we are going to use a specific title constituent data that I'll show you in the PowerPoint slide, and we're going to use that information. So this is the harmonic boundary condition that we are going to use. Let me enter that in, you can copy mine. So the first data we're going to import is K1. So let's go ahead and sort our data by name.
I'm falling behind again. How do I can't get I can't get a series to go. So I go
Oh,
to
you
the
can
end.
choose this format. Let's go ahead and figure out. Go to import data, right?
Okay. Well,
Yes. Please choose the first format, EEDAT.
For flow, or you're importing
For
flow?
So sorry, I forgot to
Yeah.
unzip that one, so that's where I fell behind.
Oh, okay. So, you say it's a EEDAT
Yeah,
format?
EEDAT
Yeah.
format.
Just click preview just to make sure.
Should look something like this.
Yep, that's what it looks like.
And you said -1.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll distribute the flows.
Okay. And then we go to harmonics.
Yeah, to assign a harmonic boundary condition.
And
Okay, first thing, that little pink box up there on harmonics. Is that, you ready for that? Yeah.
Yeah, the first one.
Right. Yeah, that's where he is. So
Yeah, starting
yeah, you got.
number 1. We're going to use 1-to-1 series.
Yeah, the pink basically, or that red, light red, basically indicates that something's missing or not properly set. So the first thing you need to do is set the number of series.
Then let's go ahead and click current series as 1. You can rename your title, or it can leave as default. Use boundary. So now we're going to use this data. I'll show you how to. You can just copy and paste, but sometimes you will have, whenever you're importing like constituents such as 01, you can write 01 and it will crash, or it won't represent the right constituent, so it's better to use the constituent from the left hand side. Let's go ahead and find K1. Should be alphabetical.
Yeah. 43. Number 43.
Change the order, sorry. So I'm sorting by name and here. So after you found out the right constituent, click on this button where it says use the selected harmonic constituent. Then it will place that particular constituent to our form. Now let's go ahead and find O1.
Number 28.
Click OK. Then M2. These are random. I have sorted these constituents by amplitude. So M2. Then P1.
How do you delete the line?
Just select everything and delete.
Delete.
Or whenever you can.
And
You
then
will,
P1.
yeah, P1 and 2. Then S2. We're going to use 8 title constituents for this example. So this kind of harmonic constituents you can get from NOAA or some other local sources. So selecting these information, these title constituents will give speed, but we need to enter amplitude and phase for that title constituents that will to after we finish putting all the constituents together, then Q1, Q as in queen.
Q1 is
Q1. Then go to N2, N as in Nancy. Then final K2. So now we have listed our constituents. Now we're going to enter the amplitude. First one is 0.293. First we'll enter amplitude, then we'll go to phase. Then second 0.261. Third 0.185. 0.097. 0.072. Q1 0.04, N2 0.04, K2 0.025.
if we have spaces in between, I mean empty records, would that be a problem?
I don't think that will affect.
What's that?
There's
If
a
we have,
blank
because
space.
when we delete them, they just delete the entry, but
There's a
the
blank
entries
space.
at the bottom, they don't move up, so there will be blank records.
And you delete it in what? Which, are you talking about in a text editor or?
No,
Here,
just
he deleted something, and then whenever he sorry, it will go to the next line.
Oh, yeah.
would that be a problem?
I don't think it's going to be a problem. Honestly, I'm not sure I've tested it. It might interpret it as blank and just not use it. I
Yeah.
can't remember. But
And,
it won't, you know, without an amplitude, it won't make any difference to the computations.
Yeah.
But you may be carrying around an extra blank line.
Yeah, we
But you can,
check
the
our
easiest thing to do is just to,
copy.
you can copy it, move it up to where it fills that blank, and then remove the
Change
the extra,
number of constituents to
constituents.
8.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Maybe I'll show it here so that you can copy it. Yeah,
We're going to do the same for the phase from there.
yeah. Let me pull the model here so I can try that at the same time. Let me know when you're done.
Did you say that you got this from, you get the amplitude from NOAA, kind of the relevant,
Yeah, you can find, for example, if you're working in Hawaii, you can go to NOAA website and they will have the tidal constituents. It's not available for all the stations, but the station. Let's go ahead and check out one station. Just go to tidesandcurrents.noaa.gov. Click on Tides and Currents Maps. And there is one in Alabama, so I'm going to show you that.
Oh yeah. Q1 is
Q1.
For example, I'm going to look at Dauphin Island in Alabama. If you click here, Then you can go to datums. Go to benchmark states.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, on the harmonic constituents, you'll have all the data for that particular station. I think this is the snapshot that Paul was showing this morning.
So it's benchmarks.
Oh, go to harmonic constituents.
Oh, okay.
Please note it will not be available on all the stations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just. I was kind of curious.
Yeah. However, if you have like long-term data, you can do your own data analysis and then find out harmonic constituents for those, available data. All right, let's go back here. Is everyone done entering the data? Now, if you go ahead and click on view, nothing will appear because we haven't assigned our time. At least it doesn't appear in mine. Let's go ahead and assign our timing for our model first. Go to timing. Start from 220 days. We'll run probably for 30 days or so. The reference period will remain 20. We'll use our time step as 5, but for guide you can always go back to model metrics, and then it will give you a choice from 3 to 110. I'm not too low. Maybe we can change to 10. Save our model. Let's go back to our boundary condition to our harmonics and see if we can view the data now. So our boundary conditions should look something like this. So this is the series we use to create boundary condition from harmonic constituents. So if you have the datum shift information, you can always go to pressure. Let's go to went to boundary conditions and boundary condition utilities, edit, east boundary, edit. If you go
Can
to
we repeat
pressure,
that?
sorry?
Can we repeat that?
Yeah.
Domain.
Domain, boundary conditions, then boundary condition utilities to see the boundary conditions that are assigned in the model.
Boundary conditions. What?
Boundary
Oh,
edit,
okay.
review. Then you will see 2 boundary conditions. Go to the east boundary, edit. Now if you click E, edit button next to pressure, then you'll have the form like this. But you could use the same harmonics and create the time series that will be used in the model. Just showing you an option, we're not assigning our surface elevation here. So if you click generate from harmonics, it's a number of series 1. So it's the similar looking form, but you have 2 more options to apply. You can apply datum shift and time shift if you have that information. Should have that information actually. Let's cancel this for this example. Now let's go ahead and assign that created harmonic series to our open boundary. Go to harmonic, click on drop down and select east boundary.
Where is that again?
On the same form, click on east boundary and click on edit. Are you getting this form?
Yeah.
Okay. So here you can see we have 34 cells, but yours should look something like this. You haven't assigned harmonic boundary yet. So we are going to assign harmonic boundary to our harmonic series to our boundary. Choose east boundary and then we will hit set all. So in this example we're not going to use interpolation, we're going to use the same harmonic constituents for all the boundary shells. So click on set all. So it says change 34 cells. So what it actually changed is it assigned the same harmonic boundary to all the cells. To check, let's scroll here and all the cells will show the same harmonic boundary. Okay. Go ahead and click OK. Now let's go back to inflow and assign the inflow boundary series that we had created. Go to inflow, click on edit. Go to flow table and click on the drop down and select inflow or whatever name you have given. So we're going to assign this boundary condition to all the cells. Click on all. Then all the cells will have the same boundary series. So remember, there is a factor here. When you have only one cell assigned, the factor will always be 1. So here we have assigned 3 cells, and it is using the same inflow and distributing in those 3 cells. So it's 0.33 fraction for each. If you don't want to provide your hydrograph in a data file, you could always assign constant flow over here. I'm not going to use it. Click OK. Click OK. So now we have specified initial conditions for bottom elevation, water surface elevation. We have assigned boundary condition. We have associated flows and open boundary harmonics. Now let's go ahead and activate salinity in our model. Go to active modules, click on activate salinity, and in fact click on activate dye. We'll do both at the same time because running this model will take a fairly long time. Go back to our salinity tab. Now let's assign our initial conditions for salinity. So we'll use an interpolation, like from here we'll use one salinity of 1 ppt from here, and it's all the way to 34 on the open boundary. So let's go ahead and create a file using the same tool that Paul used. Click on model results extraction tool. Use mouse to manually extract points. Click OK. Let's select the first point over here all the way to.
Can you repeat that?
So are you on? You can be any view over here.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. Let's be on bottom elevation.
And then we click on the.
Go to this paint brush icon.
Okay.
And then go to extraction option. Use mouse to manually points. Click OK. Let's zoom in and then select this point here. Anywhere, it doesn't matter. Let's go back and select any point somewhere over here on the eastern boundary. Okay. Make sure you have 2 points, one at the river mouth and one at the estuary boundary location. Click another location, and let's go ahead and click on the same button again. That will prompt a button from the window to save our file. Let's go ahead and give the name initial salinity Khuc. Is everyone following me so far?
It says no output has been.
So to save your
What's that? You have to off that. Yeah. Okay.
let's go back to that file and change the values for the G coordinates, X, Y, and Z format. So to go to a model location again, you can always right click here or sit on toolbar, right?
Yeah, just put you see it. I think it doesn't tell you on the help.
I have to.
No, on the. Well, just move it over the exit button and see what the tooltip says. It says return. Go far to the right, just to the right of the calibration button. I know it works. just try it. Right mouse click anywhere up there and see how that works.
I already copied something.
Yeah.
Alright, let's go back to our Windows Explorer and see if that works. That seems to work. Set it over here, initial salinity Khuc. So we'll edit the last values to 1 at the upstream and 34 at the downstream. We can change the label if you want. Initial salinity. Then save this file. So X and Y, your X and Y might be a little bit different, but it shouldn't have any. 1673656.382.
I right-clicked on the DSI logo and it crashed.
It crashed?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, it came back.
It crashed or it came back? What do you mean?
Maybe it was
Oh,
easy.
no.
Did it actually crash or?
No, it didn't crash. I left-click on it and it showed this.
Oh, information?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Good.
That's good news.
The crash. I hate that word.
Alright, everyone is ready to assign initial condition now, right?
Yeah.
Let's go back to our domain, salinity tab, and click on assign. Now we are going to use, all I had to use that information to assign water surface elevation. Now we are going to use the similar format to assign our salinity condition. Let's go ahead and find our XYZ file. That file should work, right? Click on initial salinity, and then we'll set that for all the layers. For initial condition, we'll use the same value for all the layers. So let's go ahead and click on.
Yeah. I think it's 1 and 32.
Go to salinity and then click on assign.
Yeah, I haven't edited the
Oh, you haven't edited? Alright.
1 and 34. Okay.
1 and 34. You could rename these. Yeah, find that file over here in XYZ location, and then make sure you are on use point measurements, and then check set for all the layers, so those values will be assigned for all the layers in our model. When you're ready, click on apply, then it will apply to all the cells. Let's go back and check if it applied to all the cells. Now you can see your salinity is kind of smooth. Near the headwaters it's fresh water, and near the open boundary it's saline or dense water. Now that we have specified our salinity values, let's go ahead and assign the salinity boundary condition for our open boundary. Go to domain, boundary conditions, edit, east boundary, click on edit. Let's go ahead and use bottom salinity of 34 and surface of 33.8. So if you don't apply or use set all, then it will be assigned to only the first cell. So So to assign the concentration or salinity, go to the bottom left, and there is a field to enter the values for salinity. It's 0.34. You can leave it on, or you can just delete it. 34 and 33.8. We have 5 layers in our model. The first surface is 33.8 and bottom is 34. The model will calculate the salinity for remaining layers. Now let's go ahead and click on set all. Change 34, okay. Okay. Make sure it's 34 on all the cells. So we're good with salinity. We're not going to assign any values for the upstream salinity. That means it's 0. If you want, you can use 0.2. Let's see what value I have used here. So I have used 0.1. Let's go ahead and assign 0.1 value for that boundary condition. For boundary conditions, edit, inflow, edit, salinity, edit, okay. I think we have data for salinity there somewhere. So here is a boundary condition underscore salinity. Let's go ahead and use import data and browse to the folder and click on BC underscore salinity. Select that. That should be Julian date values. What does it look like?
Did you change any of that? Did you change any
Oh,
of the
I went
values?
to Julian date values.
Yeah, space.
But it's EE got that, but it's this format.
I'm wondering
Yeah.
if I got the right
Yeah, the first one is the right format.
salinity, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
So it should look something like this, and if you use your down arrow, then it will show the value.
okay. So is it Julian?
No, it's EE dash.
Oh, okay.
So whenever we have format like this, the first value is representing the number of data points. So here is 3, and the second information is the information about the data. So it's salinity data, freshwater. Now let's go ahead and click OK. So then it's asking for which column you want to assign. Let's go ahead and use -1 and assign to all the cells. Click OK. Now all of the cells should have concentration salinity of 2.1. Okay. Click OK. Make sure you have salinity series for all the cells. If you're not sure, always click all, and then it will apply the same salinity time series to all of our cells in our boundary condition. Let's go ahead and click OK. Okay, now let's go to die and assign die initial condition. Then you should be able to run the model. Go to die. So initial condition of die would be 0, so we won't do anything there. However, for the inflows, we'll assign the dye concentration of 100 mg per liter. So in order to track how our fresh water is moving into the system. Go to inflow again, edit. Now here on the dye, click on E. Number series 1. You can manually type for a couple of points. Start from 0 to 0, 100 to to recover the simulation time.
Is it 200?
It's
The
100.
value.
Looks like 200, doesn't it? Yeah, 100. Click OK. I did not rename the series as die into, I just left it series _1. Let's go ahead and assign to all, click on all. So each cells will have now salinity series and die series associated with those cells. Go ahead and click OK. Now let's go ahead and save our model. And one final thing we'll assign is wind condition. Click on wind. Create one series. Let's rename it wind. So we'll have the wind data and our data folder. Where's the winds data? We'll just copy and paste the wind data into our folder. So it's on data folder, and there is a winds data.dat.
Data boundary? No.
No, on the root folder
Okay.
data on the bottom. It should be on the bottom.
Which custom data?
Yeah, going to the root folder, the first folder, not on 3D course.
Okay.
It should be there. 3D course for that. Go to data, not 3D course, and then find the wind data and open in your text editor. Copy that and paste in your EE4. Paste. Then you can view our wind roads. What is it?
There's an extra.
Extra line. The last data point for this series is
You have extra data in there. It must loop around.
yeah, I can delete that. That should work. Let's go ahead and look at our wind roads. These run times. So predominantly wind is going from northwest direction. Okay. Now we're ready to run our model. Let's go ahead and save and run our model.
Will wind sheltering automatically go to 1 when you input?
Yeah, by
What-
default, wind sheltering is 1.
Yeah, by default it's 1.
Okay.
But it can be any numbers, it can be greater than 1, and often is. It needs to be. Because measured winds over land have a higher roughness factor than winds over the surface, so many times you have wind sheltering greater than 1 for offshore applications, if the data has been measured onshore.
Let's go back to hydrodynamics tab and activate our background, and let's go ahead and select activate hydro HMD with Smack-Wierenski. So to assign our background, there is a rule of thumb that's like minimum cell area divided by 1000. Let's go ahead and check our statistics and figure out a rough number that we can use. Go to your view plan, and it can be anywhere really, and click on general statistics button. Click no, since we're going to use all the cells. And here you have a rough idea about your model cell size. The bottom values are our bottom elevation, so we're only looking at the cell size over here. So it ranges from 57 to 100, it's like 5,000. Divided by 1000, so it's roughly around 5. So we'll use the background viscosity of 5 in this example. So I'm looking at the minimum dy and minimum dx. It's around 100 and roughly 50. So that's the initial judgment. Actually, you can change those values. It's kind of part of a calibration parameter. Go ahead and change that to 5. And this dimensionless horizontal momentum diffusion coefficient usually varies from 0.1 to 0.25. You can always tweak this parameter if you're having getting trouble replicating your water surface elevations or hydrodynamics. So in hydrodynamics, this parameter background and bottom roughness plays a huge role. So you should always do sensitivity runs on your bottom roughness and background eddy viscosity, and it's Smagorinsky coefficient. Background is, you can use that rule of thumb and it should work, but you can always tweak the Smagorinsky coefficient.
I might mention in 8.0, when you're talking about
negative.
yeah, put your mouse over. It should bring up the tooltip.
Right.
But starting with 8.0, you now have spatially variable background diffusivity. Historically, you had to specify a specific diffusivity value for background, and that applied everywhere, no matter what the grid size is. And so sometimes you have really small cells, and that dictates your maximum background diffusivity. But you've got cells that are 50 by 50 meters inshore, and you've got cells that are 1,000 by 1,000 meters offshore. You're applying the same background diffusivity in the 50 by 50 as you are in the 1,000 by 1,000. Obviously, the purpose of a background diffusivity is to account for that eddy viscosity losses subgrid inside your cell. So they really shouldn't necessarily be the same. So we've implemented a new feature. It's a minus, unfortunately, right now. We'll probably update the approach, but generally the input, if the AHO is negative, it's a multiplier times your cell area. So if I put a negative minus, a minus 0.001, it'll take the cell size, dx times dy, times that value, and that'll become the background diffusivity for that cell.
But it will use the absolute value, right? Not the negative.
Right. And it uses the absolute value of that for the diffusivity for that cell. And that way, every cell, as they're changing sizes, can have a different diffusivity, so you account for energy losses throughout the system. And it really does help, makes the models a lot more stable. But it won't help if you have a uniform dx dy, then it doesn't make any difference. But if you've got a typical large scale, small scale, like Khuc, it makes a difference.
The eddy viscosity is just for model stability.
It's predominantly you're counting for energy losses subgrid in the AHO background. The AHD, which is the Smagorinsky coefficient, is losses due to a shear between cells. And typically you want that number to be as low as possible because it affects the viscosity, the fluid movement, and you want that to be as near zero or as low as possible. That's the general goal. Generally, you can make the model stable and crank it way up, but the model's going to have some really strange results. Because essentially it's like you're modeling molasses instead of water. That's the kind of what's happening there. So as you increase the viscosity,
proportional to your grid size.
Right.
If your grid size is really small, you should use smaller value for AHO.
But to match up to your example, just continue with what you've got, but just be aware that you have this other option now available with with 8.0.
Now let's go ahead and save our model and let it run. Before moving, the important part in this example is you need to turn on wetting and drying. As I already showed, let's go to view plan. Again, go to water levels, wetting and drying. So there are almost half of the cells are dry initially, so we need to use wetting and drying for this example. Let's go ahead and use flag -99 and dry step probably 20. Let me see if we can do anything with that. Just sign, bathymetry, structure elevation, bottom roughness will be 0.01. Boundary conditions, flow, dye, wind, harmonics. I think we're ready to run. Let's go ahead and see if this model runs. I'll use 4 cores. I have 8 cores. Change the print interval to 500. You might want to change your linkage frequency to 15 minutes. Probably wrong. Let's go ahead and change to 30 minutes. Let's run our model. Your time step higher.
Oh, it's not a time step issue. It's got to be an initial condition problem.
Oh, that boundary condition.
Initial boundary.
Elevation.
Almost always.
Minus.
What's your wet and dry? Look at your wet and dry. Is your initial water surface elevation set right according to your boundary?
Just one constant.
Now you have to look at elevation to really tell. So that's because I can't read it without my glasses. So I should put my glasses on. So your water surface elevation is 1 meter.
Yeah, let's change that.
That's a problem.
Let's go ahead and create a file and choose which tool.
You could probably just use a flat one. What happens if just apply a flat? What was it? What was it?
Minus 0.3.
See what happens when you apply that as a flat.
Going back to assign.
Yeah, I'm just having them. I just want to see if we set it to minus 0.3, how far upstream does the system wet? It may not. If it wets, pretty decent upstream, then just use that. But otherwise, you're going to have to do sloping water surface elevation.
So we set it as a constant, right?
Yeah, he just
Let
said.
me go back. So go to domain, change, go to assign, and then use constant minus 0.3.
Now, a few things to note. Go ahead and hit apply, it's fine. When it's assigning initial elevations, go to your hydrodynamics tab and look at your wet and dry. It's going to use that dry depth to control initial conditions cells wet and dry. So it's usually best, if you're going to need to use wetting and drying, you set your wetting and drying settings first, and then you apply your water surface elevations. Because it uses those settings to decide whether or not a cell, how it should apply water surface elevations. And anyway, that's a kind of a little trick you need to do to make sure that you really start off the initial model with the cells that should be dry are actually dry.
Now let's go ahead and save our model. We're not going to wait till the simulation ends. Let's go ahead and pause your model, press spacebar or any key on your executable, and then we'll go ahead and review results. Don't press twice, the model will just stop. Just press once. Okay, now let's go ahead and view our center line. Go back to your folder, and there should be a file called centerline.p2d. That's essentially the center line for our whole domain. We'll use that to view the vertical slice. You can just drag center line to your model and it will look something like this. So if you are wondering where that would be saved in the model, go to 2D plan view options. You can go there by right clicking on bottom elevation. Go to annotations, and here is the storyline.p2d file that's already loaded. Second should be the centerline.p2d file. So if you want to remove that from the view, you can always uncheck the view box here. All we found that center line, right? Now let's go to our view 2D vertical slice option. Click there. First you might want to do this view model results rescan output, so that it will use all the output before you pause the model. Click that, and then it will give you this form. Now we're going to use drape line. The drape line is a polyline that we will use to extract the results. Click on use drape line and click on browse. Find that same center line file. So it's automatically populated there. Center line. Click on OK. Does it look like this?
I cannot open anything.
Why? Did you pause your model?
Yeah, I paused it, but I'm trying to open my model. The OK button is gray.
If the OK, but you're trying to open the model, and the OK button on the dialog form is grayed out. That means that there's no input file, no efdc.inp file in that folder.
It's there.
But it's there, it shows in the bottom.
Oh, we had that problem. Are you trying to load it off of the USB, or are you trying to load it off the hard drive? We had the problem yesterday. We couldn't load it off the. Who was it that it was?
You're running the whole thing on USB.
That was you.
I cannot copy it.
Yeah, it won't.
Oh,
for whatever reason, it's not recognizing the USB, and
USB,
you had to copy it to the local
and it's
drive.
USB 2.0. Remember, it's really slow.
Yes.
No, for
I don't have the
the
permission
file
to-
opening for
You
the
don't have permission
project
to copy
for the
files.
project
Yeah,
for a
copy.
model, an
Yeah.
EFDC
We
model.
didn't have any issue.
It goes out
with
and does basically all it's doing is seeing if the file exists, but for whatever reason it's struggling with the USB. Of course, I don't really recommend people use the USB except for just to get files off, because it's generally so slow. I don't know, maybe it's a timeout issue with the command, but it's not recognizing the USB drives.
Well, just the one, like, I've been working off of this one.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not an issue as far as I think it's the USB 2, or I don't know, the thumb drive. Something's strange about the thumb drive that it's just not communicating with it. Yeah, it's not a problem because I mean I do it all the time. That's what this is. That's a 3 terabyte external drive that I just kind of strap on.
Can you drag and drop and see if it
Have the
works?
custom Velcro.
Cancel that.
It's a
And I
nice
go
touch.
to location.
So yeah, I'm not sure why it's not working with the.
Yeah. Yeah. It's working.
Yeah, if you
drag
drag
and drop works.
Yeah, what happens is on that open button, it's going out and just doing some file checking. That's all it's doing. Does that file exist? If that file exists, then the OK button would be enabled. But for whatever reason, Windows is returning back, file doesn't exist. And I don't know, maybe it's probably a timeout. I just don't know why.
All of you got to this screen so far. Now let's go ahead and change the legend. Right click on the legend, then it will give you profile options. Go to water columns. I'm going to use salinity values.
Did you use the
It's
center
still
line?
reading.
For
Yeah,
the,
yes, I did use. Now let's go ahead and add our timing frames in this window. Go to show general options, and under general options, click on show timing frame control. And the first one is there. Let's rename as inflow and change our scale to 10 days and select inflow boundary. Second, just click new and then to create a T2 frame, we'll rename it as east boundary. Change the scale to 10. Remember the scale here is the number of days. We can also add wind. However, the scaling on wind is not meter per second per inch, so we're going to use 5 for wind. Now we have assigned created inflow of east boundary and wind. Make sure to check resizable and border so we can increase our timing frames and see it more clearly. So this option is only available from EE8. If you have a prior version, shouldn't have these options. Let's go ahead and click OK. Okay. Now you can see there are 3 timing frames in our model. So to increase your size, just hover along the corners and then drag it so it will look better to visualize. So your east boundary should look like this, inflow, something like this. Did everyone get this far? Let's go ahead and fix our axis. When there is a large inflow coming in, it will go all the way to 2 meters. So to change your axis limits, right click and then change the bounds from 2 to -14. Interval to 2. Click OK. Let's increase our labels a little bit so it will be easier to read. Change title to 14. Label to larger. And after we have changed the label titles and size, you can go to this button over here that says X-Y, and then it will change the remaining axis to the same font size for the title and the label. So go ahead and click that. So now you have cleaner looking form from elevation ranging from -14 to 2, and we have 3-month timing frames in our window. Now let's go ahead and create animation and see the interaction of tides and inflows. You can always save these settings, so whenever you come back to 2D plan view, you can load the settings and then your form will look exactly like this. But remember, it won't save the size of your timing frames. Let's go ahead and save our settings first. Go to the save icon on the top. Click on save. 2D profile underscore 2D underscore something, and then save. Now let's go ahead and animate and see the interaction between freshwater and saline water. Quick snap, stop, skip 1, frame delay 0.2, 0.3, then let it run. So as you can see, when look here, you can see the salinity gradient when the higher inflow is coming from upstream. See, the fresh water is moving out from the surface and the denser water is creeping into the system from the bottom. So you can see the nice interaction of fresh water and salt water going in. Fresh water going out of the surface and salt water coming into the system from the bottom. And there is this nice salinity wedge between fresh water and salt water. And you can always see when there is a flood tide, you can see the water is coming in. When there is a falling tide or ebb tide, the water is going out of the system from the open boundary. So inflow, let's go to, we'll wait till it reaches that point. We'll see large amount of inflow coming in.
So those colors that you see that are
here
at the bottom, no.
This?
At the top.
This?
Those are the ones that dry
Yes,
up.
that dry at that
But
particular.
we set a number that it will not just disappear.
Well, no, it actually, in this it probably should, but it actually doesn't. But better is to be more accurate, is to take your center line when you're building your center line and follow the river channel.
Right.
Just make it, the channel takes a left, take your center line, go, and just follow the toweg, and then you don't end up with those little spurious little.
Yeah, I
perched.
created a center line. It was already there, so
Yeah.
using there. It seems like there are some dry cells in
Yeah, it
the center
doesn't
line.
quite go through the center of the actual channel.
So you can see here the inflow is relatively large. So half of the domain is always fresh.
Yeah.
Remember, these are really large flows coming in from the river.
It's totally, almost completely freshening
Yeah.
everything inside the estuary.
But whenever the flood tide is coming in, it's pushing the whole water column with denser water. And here you can all see the wind direction at each time step. So, any questions on this visualization? Stop your animation using escape. Now let's go ahead and view the dye concentration, how dye is changing in the domain. So to go to the dye view, right click on your legend, and it will take you to profile options, water column. Change your water column option to dye. By default it's 0 to 100, or put it like that. So then click OK. Now let's start from our initial time. Go all the way to the beginning over here. Now let's animate and see how the fresh water is moving out of the system. It's a nice way of tracking how your fresh water is getting out of the system, which layer it's falling in, whether it's going out from the surface. Of course, there will be some dilution as it moves downstream. still you could see the path of the fresh water going on. Let's go to animate. No, use the same settings and then see the. So here the fresh water is coming in, but it's pushed back by the salt water when there is a flood tide coming in. So this is a nice salt wedge that's created between fresh water and salt water. You can see that it's elongated throughout the surface. It's elongated. Water tries to creep in from the bottom. Fresh water is trying to get out from the surface. That's why you can see a nice gradient here. So you can see all the this whole region is dominated by the fresh water. So it's almost 100 mg per liter dye concentration. We could do the sensitivity analysis by reducing our flows and see to what extent this salt water would go into the system. You can see your salt water probably reaching all the way over here when there is a smaller inflow from the upstream. I think that would be it for this section. Anything?
No, the only thing I was thinking is always love trying new stuff in the middle of training. I haven't seen the residual flow for a while. Thinking about looking at residual flows.
Main mass transfer.
What's that?
Main mass transfer.
No, the residual flows in the plan view.
Oh, okay.
Looking at your long-term average velocities over a 34-hour or longer period. I don't have to do it myself. Have to look it up. Yeah, it's not blocked. Yeah, see what it says. It's residual flow. Turning on.
Control R, right?
Yep. Let me get my glasses.
Main mass transfer.
Yeah. The mean mass transport field. Mm-hmm. Control R.
Looking at that average.
No, because what we're interested in is kind of looking at the residual flow by layer. So what's the long term? Go out period. So after that'd be fine, and then look at Control R and pick a period that's like 20 or 30 hours, day and a half, something like that. That's the start time. So that would be like 2. Well, that's too long. Well, I mean, it should work, but it may take a little while to do it. I'm just thinking the start and end time needs to be in the order of a day or two. I mean, a couple days, day to 2 days. Yeah, and we can look at them, zoom in.
So what I did is went to velocity tab and then hit Control R on your keyboard, then it will give you the option for mean mass transfer. So we are looking at the overall residual current for the last 24 hours.
Zoom in on that. Let's look at the that's almost all freshwater up there in the upper part.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's
just
always going up.
yeah. Look down right down there in that lower section. Let's see what. Still all freshwater predominantly. But that's
the layer 1.
Layer 1 should be coming in. I mean, if there's any significant mass transfer upstream on a residual current, but of course, this is largely too much inflow, and mostly everything is freshwater up in the estuary. So right now,
It changed when we were looking at spring tides. They're still like that.
yeah. Anyways, just curious, but you have the ability to look at residual currents with EE.
That just averages between your start and end time.
That's the end time average of your vector components. So yes, it's average, but it's of the vector components.
You can specify your start and end time anytime you do. model simulation view. We can see our salinity patterns for each layer and see from bottom layer we could see the salinity is coming into the system more often, and for the surface layer salt water would go out of the system. Let's go to viewing options and water by layer. Let's look at bottom layer and look at animation. Start from change to 2.2. Okay. You can see this is the deep tide, the flow is going out. You can always use layer 2 to see the direction of velocities. Check layer 2, use velocities. You can see the direction the flow is going in or out of the system. Now let's animate again. You can see the water is coming in. The direction of the arrows will show you which direction water is coming in, and the color of salinity will give us idea about which one is the fresh water and which one is the salt water. But here the fresh water reach all the way over here. Now flood tide will bring back denser water into the system. It's a nice interaction between fresh water and salt water. Now as we are approaching to the neap tides, the fresh water will dominate the overall flow into the salt water cannot reach all the way, what it used to reach during the neap tides because of the lower amplitude. So it's always a good idea to do analysis for neap tide and spring tide when you're doing a model simulation. Let's go there and cancel that. So let's go to 3D view, and maybe we can create a fly group. So are all of you familiar with the fly through feature?
I haven't used it.
Okay, let's go ahead and use that. Let's go somewhere in between Control G. Still getting that there. Maybe it's
But you don't get it when you're not. I wonder if it's
3D
when
view. I'm not sure. I'll check. Yeah, it's a 3D view there.
Let me try. Is it? Oh, it worked. Now it's working.
Okay. So to create flight path animation, we need to create a path. Which path we want to follow? So and go from upstream to downstream or downstream. Let's go from upstream to downstream. So you can see a flight plane icon, then click on drop down next to it. So flight path tool. So and click that. It's similar to the polyline tool that we have been using. Create a new flight path. And let's start here. You can choose path whichever direction you want. Then after you're done, just right click, save our animation path, flight path, animation, save. So you can change your elevation where your path. Well, you can change the path of your elevations. So to define globally, you can change, if you click on G button, then it will ask you what is the elevation you want to use for all the points. Let's see, elevation. And we'll use 10 for global, and for some points we can go underwater and see what's going on there. So to change each point, click on edit point, and when we approach near the coastal region, let's click on this point. So remember this is showing G value of 10 because we had assigned the constant elevation here. Now to change let's change our G value here and go all the way to -5. Let's check -5. Check this one as -6. So remember, when you change that value, that point disappears. That means it's inside your water column. Let's change one more point so that we can see a nice smooth transition. 2. Alright, now we're done signing our flight path animation. Go ahead and save it again. Be right. And let's go to that drop down menu and click on flight path offsets. So the first animation step is the total animation step that the model will use to go from the starting point to the end point. We will stick with that number. So you can change the camera angle to view the results. Still use the same value. You can always change and see how it makes any difference in your view. FOV. What's the FOV by?
What's that?
This type.
Let's see. Angle, flight. What was that? One of them is the direction that you're looking forward, and the other one's looking at an angle. And let's see.
And you can choose whether you're flying.
I don't remember. You can play with it.
Let's leave everything as default. You can choose a spline. You can use other base spline or camel wrong.
Camel wrong.
Let's choose the default one and click OK. Now let's go ahead and animate flight back. Click no. Here are some other parameters that we want to use. So if you don't use frame delay, then it will move straight to your path and it will finish pretty soon. Let's go ahead and change to 0.3. Animation step, the total step, change that to 50. Flight camera angle 10. I don't want to show the flight path. So if you show flight path, it will go ahead and meet at all the points, and then your point will enlarge when the camera reaches that point. So just change that to F. That's false. It's essentially asking you the option true or false. Click OK. So now our animation is started from off stream. Remember, you cannot change the view, so you need to make sure which view you want to view. The values at a particular snapshot. So this is the flight animation at a particular snapshot. Find a snapshot that's really interesting to you that you want to show to others. So find that and create an animation. You can add labels. You can import Collada 3D files. If you know there is some bridge, you can import the bridge and make it look pretty.
Yeah, we should probably put some links to it. Do we have in the user's guide for Collada, for some of the resources?
Readily available that
Yeah,
user can
yeah.
use.
Because I mean, we don't have to build them necessarily. A lot of them
Right.
exist. But of course, if you got some obscure bridge that's not there, but there's a lot of structures that are already pre-built.
That's a good idea. So you can always change the speed by changing that delay value. Right now I'm using 0.3. If you use frame delay time at 0 second, it will move really fast. That's that. My model is rotate because I have a flight path coming all the way towards upstream.
You can dive down and I can see anything but red because you
Yeah,
have the water column turned on. So
right.
you have to turn off the water column. And now you're down below the bottom.
Yeah. So it's a nice
We just have now we're Bertha tunneling below the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, it's a good lesson to don't go beyond your audit domain. If you want to view from the bottom, it's a good idea.
But a lot of times, like if you turn off the water column and you can dive down below the water, you have the water surface elevation there. So you have the bottom elevation, and you have the water surface, and you can kind of show features and things. You can even turn the water column on, but the water column with clipping, so everything it's not shown until you get to maybe a high concentration area or something, and then you can see a high concentration area with the clipping turned on. It can be it has a nice wow factor for clients.
We should be able to see the layers, right? The colors as if we go down.
Yeah, well, that's what you were actually seeing as he dove through. You could see the colors change, but
They're not that.
it's kind of like it's just blocky colors changing across the screen.
What were you saying? I needed to turn off here.
Well, turn off the water column and just have the water surface, and then you can do the flight path, speed up the flight path, turn off. Just up on top where it says water column, just switch to water surface, and then change your water surface or change your bottom elevation to a constant solid color. It's the second bottom elevation would be the second ramp. Yeah. And that brown. Yeah. And turn on the your water surface on. I don't really see it. No. Go back to the water surface. I don't see the water surface there. Check it, turn it off, and turn it back on. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Change your opacity down so you can see through it, but you can't. Yeah, something like that. Now do your fly through and speed it up a little bit. Just don't, have any. No, that slows it down. Now, when you dive down below the surface, you'll see that you'll still be able to see. Of course, it's such a shallow system, but still, it's illustrative, not necessarily a real application.
Adding a 3D georeference is like the 2D.
What's that?
If you want to add a georeference in 3D view, is it the same as 2D?
Let's put it this way: 7.3 said it was working, but it didn't really work.
It's going down.
Yeah. So we dove down below the water. Now we're below the bottom. And then we'll come back up. But theoretically, yes, we're supposed to. And then it's supposed to be able to drape the 3D image onto a 3D surface or a flat surface if there's no 3D surface off. But I haven't seen it functioning. I haven't seen him actually demonstrate it to me that it really works. Have you tried it, Janesh? A Geo Reference file on 3D?
I think I use the 2D Geo Reference Map, and then it should automatically do something on the so on the top. You can see the map, or here.
Well, you can try it here. Well, yeah, you have the Geo Reference files for Khuc, don't you, on the project? Just see what it does. Break it.
Right click.
That's a surface. That's the difference from the. You need a surface to drape onto, and since a surface is greater than the model domain because it extends beyond the wetted area, you have to have a 3D surface to image on, or have the georeference image to be draped onto. And the idea was that you're supposed to be able to have a flat surface. If you don't have a topography, and you still want to have a georeference file, it would just drape at a fixed elevation. Oh well. Ask them a question. Send them an email tonight and say, "Hey, I want to do this. I forgot how to do it."
Yeah, maybe we can show it tomorrow.
Yep.
I think.
Yep. It's the end of the day. Call it a day.
Any questions on this model or visual results? Tomorrow we will use waves features on the same model and see how we can link to external SWAN model and then view the results from SWAN model.